Hi loves, it's Lacey and welcome to our space. So for today's video, I'm going to be trying my hand once again at resin. I have done resin one other time on my channel, but today I am lucky enough that we are going to be using Hippie Crafter's epoxy resin. They graciously gifted this to me, their epoxy resin set here that is a two-part system, along with their Mecha powders, which you get 24 iridescent colors of Mecha powders. Let me show you what they look like. They are very bright and colorful to add to my resin. You can also use Mecha powders with things like wax to make candles. You can do soap with them. There are a lot of applications for this. Now, if you are not familiar with Hippie Crafter, here's their website I'm scrolling through. I'm going to link it down in my description down below. It is so bright and so colorful, and they are a family-owned business. They make art and craft supplies that are geared to not only beginners, but all the way up to professionals. And so I'm going to link that down below so you can check them out because they've been featured on networks and there's lots of reviews and projects on there for you to try. So for my first project here, I was going to start out with mixing in this small mixing cup that is actually for resin, and I have like a popsicle stick stir stick here. I'm pouring equal parts of the resin and the hardener into the cup. So I am putting 2 ounces of each into this cup. Now, as you can see, I have on gloves. One of the most important things with resin is safety. I'm wearing latex, well actually they're not latex, they're non-latex gloves, and I also have on a face mask. I'm in a well-ventilated area, and I am stirring these 2 parts together. Now, on their website, Hippie Crafter's website, they give you all the information that you need to know to do this safely and how to mix your portions. They even tell you how to mix resin to put on a flat surface. I'm going to be using molds for mine, not their molds. I wish I would have got their molds, but I didn't. But I'm going to use molds for mine, and they have all these pro tips on how to mix your resin so it comes out really nice. I did follow them. But as you can see, I have changed the molds that I'm going to use. These little red molds are actually silicone baking molds for like cakes and things, but they work very well with resin. And I'm using a silicone bottom of a spoon that came from Dollar Tree to stir my resin, and I moved it into a bigger cup. So now what I'm doing is, once it's all mixed together, I'm pouring it slowly into these molds. These molds are really deep, so I'm going to be doing my resin in layers. When you do deep pour resin, you need to do it in layers. If you do too much resin at a time, it will heat up and it can damage your molds, and it can get very toxic in the air, and it's really not good for you. So now I'm taking my Ryobi heat gun, and I am just popping some of the bubbles that rose to the top. Now, I did wait for a second before I popped those bubbles. I let it sit for like 5 minutes, and then I did it. And then I'm placing in these little roses that I got from Joann Fabrics on clearance last year. Now, I am making these for my wedding. Actually, this is my trial run for my wedding. So I am going to use these that I made for my wedding. I am making sure that these flowers are sticking all the way down in the resin, and I'm adding in some leaves. Now, all of these are faux flowers. I have seen over and over how people dry their wedding bouquets and they put flowers in resins like this. But of course, since I haven't had my wedding yet, I don't have that bouquet, and I didn't have enough time to dry flowers once I decided to do this for this resin project. So I'm just taking these faux flowers, and I took them off their stems from Joann's, and I'm placing them down in the resin. I poured a little over ½ an inch of resin in each one of these. I only mixed together about 4 ounces of resin. So once I did that, I just placed my flowers down in, and then I'm going to add in a little bit of branches and things like that too. So on this big one, as you saw, I put down some leaves, then the florals. I'm putting in these little plastic branches, and then I'm going to use some of these like beaded garland that's next to me too. I'm going to put some of that in the big one as well. This you can decorate any kind of way you want. You can put in colored flowers. Most of these are like a cream color because the colors for my wedding are going to be black and champagne and creams. And then we just discussed this like yesterday, and we've decided we're having a fall wedding, so it'll be in October. And I really love like the bright, beautiful, kind of rusted or kind of coral like oranges, and then the wine colors for it. So those colors are probably going to be the colors we add in. And I'm lucky enough that I'm not getting married until 2023, so I will be able to hopefully get some of those faux flowers on clearance at some of the craft stores, but we are going to be using real florals as well for our wedding. But I'm making these to be candle holders for the wedding. So now I'm just taking on the small one and taking some little kind of baby breath beads that I had left over in my stash, and I'm putting some of them in too. Now, once I get all of this inside of here, I'm going to wait a whole 4 to 6 hours before I pour another layer, because these are very small. And so as I'm waiting to do the next one, it's been about 4 hours, I discovered that to ensure that you don't get big bubbles into your resin, you can heat it up while you're mixing it, and it will stop from forming a lot of extra bubbles. I got that tip from Artsy Madwoman. She does resin art all the time, so I will link her channel down below as well, so you can see the things she made and go to her tip, because I was getting a few extra bubbles coming up in the resin after I put my flowers in, and I was trying to pop them with my heat gun, but there were some in the bottom that weren't coming up. So she suggested you heat the resin. Now I'm using my craft heat gun with this, and I'm turning the resin, and right now I actually have the resin above the heat gun, but I turn the cup continuously. Do not hold your cup in front of the heat gun. Mine is kind of on the side of it, and I'm turning it continuously and stirring it. I sped up this footage. I'm not stirring this fast. I just sped it up so you wouldn't have to sit through me stirring it, to show you how I lift it up sideways so then the heat gun doesn't hit the cup for a while. Then I put it down and turn it so it gets heated a little, and then I do it again. So this is like ×4, so don't think I'm stirring it this fast. You will put a ton of bubbles in there if you stir it this fast. Also, the spoon that I'm using, the end has a hole in it. It'd be great if you use something silicone with no hole in it, because you can make bubbles that way. So once I'm done with that, after my 4 hours, I'm pouring my second layer. I'm still only gonna pour about ½ an inch. These are quite deep. They're probably 2.5 inches deep. So I pour 5 layers of resin on these. And I make sure that when I'm doing it, this is sped up a little slowly and not trying to get right on top of the flowers, because it's not going to cover the flowers at this point. And so I do about ½ an inch at a time. Now here I'm showing you, I got this mold off of Amazon, and I wasn't going to actually include it in here, and then I thought, hey, I want to do this. I want to use some of the Mecha powder. So I'm using the black silver Mecha powder. Our accent colors are going to have gold and silver with it too. So I'm using the black silver, and I wanted it really opaque, so I'm tapping some more in. Now they suggest that you use a pinch at a time, because like, you can add in more, but you can't take away. I wanted it very opaque, and so this is all sped up. Believe me, I'm not stirring this resin this fast. And I already used my heat gun on this cup, and I'm going to be pouring this black silver into the bottom of this mold. And you can see I have flowers next to it. Now, the other thing I'm doing is kind of lightly stirring it as it comes down, but I'm trying not to touch the bottom of the mold, because those stir marks will be in the bottom of the mold if you do it all the way to the bottom. And I had this other little one that had started too, that I put a little bit extra in. I don't really show you guys this at the end, because I was trying to see what this mold was going to do that someone gave me, and it did not come out very well. And so I'm going to try that mold at another time and show you guys that. But I did leave it in here to show that I didn't waste any of the resin. It was really too much to put in the bottom of this. Now you can see all the way around the edges of this, on both of them, those little white specks, those are bubbles that rose to the top. I let it wait for 5 minutes, and now I'm using my heat gun, my Ryobi heat gun. Now this is a high heat heat gun to pop those bubbles. My other craft heat gun is a lower heat one. If you're going to heat your resin, do that on a lower heat gun. So I'm using my big bad boy tool Ryobi heat gun, and I'm popping these bubbles to make sure that they all come out. And you can see they come out really, really well. I'm moving it around quite a bit. You don't want to hold it in one spot for any long period of time, because it will damage your resin and sometimes your mold. This is a actual resin mold, so it won't get damaged. So now, once that's set for about 4 or 5 hours, it's really kind of solidified, so I don't need to have on gloves for this. I'm going to put decorations in. I pulled out some more things, and I thought I was going to use like the burgundy wine colored, but I would have had to put that into the black section of the mold before it solidified some, and so it was too big. But I'm putting leaves down first for my base, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in all of my really pretty floral decorations. This is your personal preference. You can do this any kind of way that you want. Like I said before, I'm going to be using creams and beiges, and then we're going to pick like probably like a rusty orange and coral, and then like a wine and a lighter pink, so it all goes together for fall. I have the idea in my mind, and when I do pick my florals, I will let you guys see exactly what I use. And so I'm going to also take some of these little baby's breath pieces that it looks like on these stems and stick those in, and I'm going to use some more of these berry garland pieces and twist them around my finger, and also put those into the resin with this around the edges. Anything that I thought would look really pretty sitting up on the resin table. Once I get everything out of this mold, these will sit up on the base by themselves, and so I thought it'd be really a pretty thing to be able to use for, say, like writing the word cards with vinyl on it with my Cricut machine, or like putting it by the guest book and writing guest book on it, or desserts or something like that. But it is just a pretty decoration by itself. So yeah, I'm putting a whole lot inside of this. You can do a whole lot less if you decide to do something like this, and I will look for and link this mold down below as well. So here we are with our next pour on this one, as we're waiting for the other one to get ready for us to do our third pour on. This is the second pour on this, and I just try to get a little bit on the flowers and make sure I fill in all of the edges with this. This is where I struggled a little bit, because I wasn't sure if I could get all the bubbles out of this because of how I was pouring it. And it is a little more difficult when you have a mold that's not like totally square or completely round, and you have things spread out a little further in it. So I made sure I got all of my resin this time, because I did just enough. So now here we go. We're going to unmold our first round. I went back and I poured this in 5 different layers. I didn't want to put you through watching me do all 5 layers. It came out of the mold perfectly and crystal clear. Look at how clear this is. However, I went back to this and poured it 5 times. I used my heat gun on it 5 times. I waited 5 minutes each time I used the heat gun, and then did it again at the 10-minute mark, and it still got bubbles in it. I think it's because my flowers had air in them when I put them in, and then it just escaped over the time. So here we go with the larger one. This one, I really love how I did all of the florals in this, and it ended up with a really big bubble on the side. I don't know why it got air in on the side of this mold, but the mold is perfectly fine. It wasn't damaged, but I can tell right where it was, there was like resin that was sticking to it funny. And so I do have a big bubble on the side of that one as well. It doesn't really bother me, but I'm in love with how clear this resin came out. The bubbles and how it came out of the mold is basically user error. It's basically me just doing it my second time. I saw lots of people in videos use resin and they all said practice makes perfect, and I just think they're beautiful. Okay, so now we are unmolding this one, and this is an actual resin mold and it came out really nice out of it. I did end up with bubbles again. User error. I'm sure they would have come out a lot better if I had taken more time. Also, my flowers floated in that second level, and so they were kind of above where the resin is. So for now, I'm going to leave it like this, but I think I'm going to watch some more videos on how people did it and then turn around and do a top coat to the resin, which will get the flowers underneath. Also, I decided, because I did have on my last pour of the large piece resin left over, that I wanted to see how more of the Mecha powder worked, and purple is my favorite color, you guys know. And so I poured a layer of purple into this heart-shaped coaster and then a layer of clear. And I'm going to be using this to catch hot glue from my glue gun if it drips. Sometimes, every once in a while, it drips some when I'm using it a lot during crafts. So I thought this was a really cool way to use my extra resin that I had poured. But on to the beautiful, I absolutely love these. Even with the bubbles in them, I think they turned out gorgeous. My thick pour, deep pour resin with florals. Oh, I love this resin. It was so easy to work with. I never had a very strong smell from it, even though you do want to be in a well ventilated area. I was with all the windows open. I had a respirator mask on my face and gloves on and safety glasses also on my face to pour this, but it came out beautifully. You can use it like a candle holder. I have it on one of my thrifted crystal candlesticks, and then I put a regular candle on top of it. The little one is on another little wooden candlestick because we will have some wood accents, and then you can see in the back how the other one sits up. You could take vinyl, like I said, with your Cricut or a rub-on transfer or whatever. You could write guest book on that or cards or something. I'm probably going to do that once I practice on a couple other ones, and I'm going to set these out as display. I absolutely love how they turned out. So that is it for this video. I want to thank Hippie Crafter for sending me their epoxy resin along with their Mecha powder. I absolutely love working with both of them. You can also get mold for them, and they also have a heat gun on their site for sale, plus a ton of other craft supplies if you are interested in it. Make sure you check them out. It will be down in my description box down below. I want to thank all of you for watching, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye, loves.